Hello and welcome to another Saints Live, the second of 3 games in a jam-packed week in the Premier League. Tonight, Kenzie and myself will be bringing you pre- and post-match coverage of our match at St Mary's against Brighton. And it's time to welcome our 2 guests as always, which are Dean Hammond and Adam Leach. How are you doing, chaps?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Very good, very good. Adam, you all right?
Yeah, pretty good. Bit of a technology meltdown before we came on air. Been sat here working it all day, no Wi-Fi problems. Literally did all my prep, all fine. Just went and got a glass of water, came back, and just doesn't work anymore. So I'm off my phone. So I'm hoping.
Well, you're sounding and looking good now, so fingers crossed it stays that way.
Before.
Exactly. So we've got loads to get into, but first, the team news is hot off the press. So Kenzie's going to be giving that for us.
Yeah, well, we knew Ralph would shuffle the pack. There has been a number of changes to make you aware of. The most notable of those changes being that Jake Vokins makes his Premier League debut at left back. So let's take a look at that Saints team in full. Then it's on your screens at the moment. In goal, Alex McCarthy. In defence, we assume James Ward-Prowse will start at right back. We have that centre-back pairing of Yannick Vestergaard and Jan Bednarek. And 20-year-old Jake Vokins starts at left back, as I said. Oriol Romeu, Pierre Højbjerg, Will Smallbone and Nathan Redmond make up the midfield. And after his late equaliser at Old Trafford, Michael Obafemi starts alongside Danny Ings. The substitutes then for the Saints: Angus Gunn, Kevin Danso, Jack Stevens, Ryan Bertrand, Carl Walker-Peters, Jacob Maddox, an academy player on loan from Chelsea, Stuart Armstrong, Shay Adams, and finally Shane Long. So Dean, Adam, let's come to you then for an initial reaction on this. As I said, we were anticipating changes. Ralph has made a number of them. I suppose the first point we want to come to you on is just how big an opportunity is this for Will and Jake today? Adam, we'll start with you.
Oh, well, it's absolutely massive for both of them. Obviously, Will has been in and around the first team now, so he's had some chances and he's done well. And so every chance you get as a young player, you've got to kind of capitalise on. He's not playing with any fear. He's coming into a team that are in good shape. They're in good momentum. There's not a lot of pressure on them in terms of results. It's a good time to be playing. And I guess that's probably why Ralph has also thrown in Jake Vokins. It's a big vote of confidence in him. Honestly, I maybe thought his chance would come a little bit earlier, given they obviously let Matt Targett go with the thought that Jake Vokins could kind of be the backup to Ryan Bertrand, but Kevin Danso kind of slotted in there. I guess Ralph maybe thought it was just a tiny bit too earlier in the season, but having had more time to kind of get some more learning under his belt on the training ground, and with Ryan Bertrand presumably needing a little bit of a rest, and Saints being safe, it's a perfect time to blood him. And I'm sure he'll have no fear. There's nothing for him to fear. It's just a great opportunity, and I'm sure he'll be desperate to go out and prove that he can be the understudy to Ryan Bertrand, and they don't need to look in the transfer market for a backup left back for next season.
What about yourself, Dean? What do you think of this lineup that Ralph selected against the Brighton side, which are in not bad form, to be fair?
I think it's a sensible decision by the manager. He's obviously considered the condition of the players. He needs to balance the squad. And giving the younger players an opportunity, which is the philosophy of the club, is brilliant. And like Adam said, it's an opportunity for them to be blooded into the first team in an appropriate game against Brighton. I would say, playing Manchester City or Manchester United is difficult, but coming into a home game where there's no pressure. The club's safe. It's in good momentum. It's in good form. They're coming into a team where they're playing with confident players, and that's always an added bonus as a youngster. If you come into a team and the team's struggling, and you're playing with experienced players who are struggling themselves, then it's even more difficult. But if they come into a team full of confidence, happy, the environment's good, then they've got a real chance to thrive. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's a sensible decision by the manager. And I'm looking forward to seeing the younger players play.
Well, what about Pierre Højbjerg and Oriol Romeu then, starting alongside each other in midfield? Adam, what do you make of that partnership?
Well, I mean, to be honest, it's one for me that's never really taken off as you thought it might. They're two players, and you feel on paper they should work really well together. And it's not that they can't, and it's not that they haven't ever. It's just that they haven't kind of quite struck up the partnership you can. I mean, Oriel tends to look better when he's not, tends to perform better when he's not alongside Pierre. That's just the way it's gone. Pierre this season has been a bit hit and miss, to be honest. I think he's, I would say it's been a fairly disappointing season from Pierre by his own high standards. And, you know, I think we're beginning to wonder seriously, given what Ralph has said, that whether he'll be here next season or not. So I guess it's probably not a partnership that's maybe one for the future, but they are two very seasoned, experienced professionals now. They're both in their own right very good footballers. They're very good players. So they've just got to try and make it work as best they can between them. They have played well together in the past, and so I'm sure they can do it tonight. It's just that they have struggled to consistently perform well together.
Yeah, it also looks like a slight change of position for our captain, James Ward-Prowse. It seems as though he's going to be playing at right back. Dean, what do you make of that move?
Well, it's part and parcel of being a captain, really. That is, you know, sometimes you have to play for the team. The manager will ask you to do his job, and it's credit to James Ward-Prowse that he can play in a variety of positions. It just shows the quality of him as a player. I would have liked to have seen him remain in midfield because I think he's in exceptional form at the moment. He's understanding his role. He's thriving in the centre of midfield. I think that's his natural position. But it's a good choice by the manager because he's playing, you know, Will Smallburn will have James behind him. So James can talk to him, he can communicate to him, can talk him through the game. So I see there's a benefit in that as well. And obviously Prowse, you know, has an excellent right foot. He has an understanding of the game playing right back. So it won't be an issue to him. He's played there before, and it will be good for Will to have him behind him.
We'll speak a little bit more about Prowse later on in the show, but for now, let's hear it from you, the fans. We always love to hear what you're saying as you're watching along at home. So we have a comment here from Reese. Hello. He says he's going for a 3-1 win to the Saints tonight. He says the wonderful Saints, in fact. Thanks for your comment. Alexander said Saints to win 2-0, James Ward-Prowse to score. Simply FM on YouTube has said this will be a tough game, patience needed, 2-1 Saints win, Ings to get both. Richard Hall, hello, he's on YouTube. He says, come on you Saints, watching from Normandy, France. Luke Goodall is also joining us on Facebook. He says he's going for a 3-1 win to the Saints tonight. Ings with 2 and Armstrong with 1. Come on you Reds. Paul Sutton, also on Facebook. Hiya. He says, come on Saints, let's have another good performance. And a final comment for now from Richard on Facebook. He says, up the Saints, and is also going for a 3-1 win. That seems a pretty popular scoreline from
a lot of positivity, and rightly so, because last time out Saints clinched a late equaliser at Old Trafford against Manchester United, so it's only fitting that we have a look at that as well.
Ward-Prowse, loose touch, now they're in trouble. Oh, it's a mistake from the skipper. It should be 1-0. Great save, Alex McCarthy, to stop Anthony Martial. Through on goal, 1-on-1. For all money, the Frenchman looked like he was going to score. And now they've given it away, United. Now Saints can pounce. Redmond in the box on the left. Chips it to the back post. Surely it's 1-0. It is. And Stuart Armstrong chests it down and half volleys it past David De Gea. A mistake in midfield, possibly by Paul Pogba, has given Southampton the lead at Manchester United. As I say that, Luke Shaw burst past the 1-2 from Martial. Lovely ball to Rashford. 1-1, but the flag goes up early. Rashford's offside. Jean Massielli says that is not going to count. Crossing from the right, shouldn't have got as far as Martial, it did. Tries to turn, Rashford to his left, 1-1. And again, that was avoidable from Southampton. United shift it over halfway through Pogba and Fernandes and out to the left wing. And here's Martial onto his right foot with pace, and he smashes it past McCarthy. And suddenly Manchester United have come to life and come back from a goal behind to lead. Plays it down the left for Martial. This is dangerous. Pulls it back. Oh, and it should have been a brilliant goal. How did they not score? Here's a corner from Ward-Prowse. Whipped into the danger area, and Southampton have equalised. And it's Michael Obafemi who specialises in away goals. He scored the substitute. It was a wicked corner from James Ward-Prowse. That's it.
And that's it.
Full time. Manchester United 2, Southampton 2.
Well, another huge performance from the Saints since the restart. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer came out and said after the game that Man United just struggled to get into a rhythm. Adam, what does that say about the way Saints performed again that night?
Well, I think, Kenzie, that was more about Saints than it was about Man United for me. Saints never let them settle really into a rhythm. Saints did what they can do so well under Ralph. I mean, they press, they harry, the kind of, I know that there's a lot of technical jargon around it, but the kind of net that they attempt to throw over opponents, as they put it, kind of works so well when they go in 2s and 3s to close down. They pushed high up the pitch as well. They weren't just sitting back, really. I mean, that exposes them to a little bit of danger, but they kind of took those risks. They did exactly what Dean identified they needed to do before the game, which was to kind of close down and shut out the sources of danger for Man United and the way that they play through midfield into their forward players. And they did that fantastically well. Ralph had obviously been listening to Dean before the game, and they were just fantastic from front to back, to a man again. We've seen several of these performances from them, and Man United, maybe they will feel they could have played a little bit better, but actually I think you have to give credit to Saints, because Man United were in good form and good rhythm coming into the game, and the way Saints played knocked them out of that rhythm. And whether Solskjaer might feel they should have been able to execute a bit more of a plan B, perhaps, okay, fair enough, but that's not for Saints to worry about. They did their bit, and they got a great result out of it, and a cracking performance. So all credit to them, and I think that the point was well deserved.
Yeah, very well deserved point. Now, Danny Ings, the Southampton talisman, might not have got on the score sheet, but it was his tireless work ethic that led to the first goal for Southampton. Dean, does that pretty much just sum him up?
Yeah, definitely. He leads by example. It's almost like Danny's kind of making up for lost time. Them few injuries where he's had and he's missed a lot of games. He looks energised, he looks enthusiastic. But what I like about him, he's got the blend right. He's very selfish in front of goal, which you want strikers to be. You want them to take opportunities and shoot a goal. But he's very unselfish for the team. He works really hard. He sets the tone from the front. He'll chase people down. If the ball's put in behind, he would chase the ball. He's just a very, very good team player. And when you've got him playing full of confidence, happy, and he's working on and off the ball with runs trying to get him behind to try and score a goal, but also, trying to tackle defenders, trying to shut down space, then, he's such a value to the team. And like I always say, he's a joy to watch because he smiles all the time. He's playing with a smile on his face, and it's lovely to see footballers do that.
He really, really is such a joy to watch. And actually, we spoke in our first show about Ings for England. And this is something I want to get both of your opinions on, actually, because we know there are 2 internationals coming up in just 7 weeks' time, 2 in September. Will he be called up, and does he deserve to be?
Well, I mean, I think, I know we talked about this, I think, in the first show. And I said, playing for a club like Southampton, the only way you get in, if you're Danny Ings, is you have to make the case continuously. You have to keep pressing your case. And that meant for restart that he had to come back and start scoring goals again. Because even if, he had a very impressive pre-restart and a very impressive total number of goals, and we might have argued that he should have been in, he probably wouldn't have got in. The chances were probably against him. So what he had to do was hit the ground running again and score goals. And that is exactly what he's done. He scored goals, and on top of that, his all-round performances have been excellent. And I think with that in mind, I would literally be stunned, assuming that he's fit, if he's not in that England squad now.
Yeah, I agree with Adam. If he should be in the England squad, he definitely deserves to be. He's scoring a lot of goals. His performances have merited that call up. And the one thing he has, he's played for a bigger club, so he ticks that box that maybe, England managers sometimes don't like that previously, that they feel as though they need to play for a top 4 or top 6 club. But Danny's movement and Danny's pace and his finishing suit England well. So I think he'll get the opportunity. He definitely deserves it. And like Adam, I'd be shocked if he doesn't get called up.
Yeah, talking of England contention, James Ward-Prowse has had more touches of the ball than any English midfielder in the Premier League this season. Do you think, now the fact he's Southampton captain, he should be in consideration from Gareth Southgate, Adam?
Yeah, I think he deserves consideration. He's playing well. He's obviously got the set piece delivery, which is another big string to his bow. And I think the thing we know, which is handy, is that Gareth Southgate really likes him as well. I mean, he's known him and managed him as a young lad, and then has had him in and around the England setup before. I would argue he's had him in the England setup before when Prowse hasn't been playing as well as he is now. Prowse's a better player now than when he was last sort of seriously in England contention and kind of got off the bench. So I would argue, yeah, he deserves a chance. Of course, you have to look at it in the context of who else he's competing against for a place in the squad. But if we're talking about does he deserve to be in contention, absolutely 100%. I mean, he is a Premier League form player. He's a Premier League captain. And like I said, somebody the England manager actually quite likes. So why not? I feel like from where we are right now, it feels like a big leap to see Prowse perhaps in the next few months being an England regular in the starting lineup, but to get in the squad and to try and then force his way in slowly but surely, I think absolutely he's got a chance.
Well, let's go back to the United game then and shine a spotlight now on Stuart Armstrong. He's now been involved in 5 goals in his last 6 games. 2 goals, 3 assists. It doesn't really seem that long ago, Dean, that he was struggling to get into the side. I assume I know your answer to this question, but is this his best form in a Saints shirt?
I would suggest so, yeah. I think that's come from his consistency in being selected by the manager. So the manager's shown some trust in him, which helps the player. That gives you confidence. I think he understands the role that the manager wants him to play now. In the 10 role. He's been very effective. He looks fitter and stronger, and that comes from playing. So maybe the break has helped him, that he potentially might have had a few niggles within his body and his conditioning wasn't quite as good. So the break he's had and then the mini kind of pre-season has setting up strong and physically well for this. But he just looks a confident player. He looks like he understands the role. He looks like he's forming partnerships with the other players and they understand how he wants to play now. But he's very clever in his movement. He's very clever with the ball. He gets in good positions, and you saw that from his goal against Manchester United. So it's definitely his best form. And it just shows that, when they tried to sign him or have signed him, that he potentially will turn out to be an excellent signing for Southampton.
Well, let's get some more reaction from the fans watching along at home on Saints Live. Hello to all of you tuning in. Always so great to hear from you. Darren Millens left us a comment on Facebook. He says, hopefully an easy win tonight after the way we've been playing. Yeah, they really are in fine form, aren't they, Darren? Keith's got in touch. He says, watching from Melbourne in Australia on a very cold morning. Do you know what? That makes me a little bit smug because I don't think it's very often we can say it's warmer on the south coast than it is for our Australian viewers. Keith on YouTube has said, sorry, we just read that one. Tim on Facebook has said, Surf City Saints in Huntington Beach predict a great game, as do we. Have you?
Yeah, it's lovely.
Oh, yeah, lovely. I bet it is. A bit nicer than the South Coast, I think. Mateo on Facebook says he's going for a 2-0 win to the Saints. We've got to go for it. Watching from Norway. Lots of you tuning in from some really lovely places today. Danny Turner on YouTube has said he's going for a 3-0 Saints win. Danny Ings for the hat-trick. We love you, Ralph. Daniel Coleman, hello. He's on YouTube tonight. He says 4-1 win for the Saints, watching from Canada. Wow, real global interest in today's Saints Live. We love it. Joey has also said, watching from a hospital waiting room in Spain. Come on the mighty Saints. Joey, hope you're okay and hope it's nothing too serious. Fiona Walker on Facebook has also predicted a 3-0 win, a clean sheet. Come on, boys. And Richard Ellis on Facebook has said, with so many changes, he's going for another draw. He's predicting 1-1.
Yeah, it's just giving me loads of ideas of where to go on holiday next year.
I know. It's a torture, actually, isn't it? Oh, it's cruel.
Now, back in April 2011, Southampton scored 2 late goals to beat then newly crowned League One champions Brighton. Now, before we get stuck into it, we asked Saints legend Ricky Lambert what he remembered.
Unbelievable. I can remember the tension in that ground, that game. It was fierce. because obviously there was a bit of history with our manager, their manager, what got said, what didn't get said.
A couple of final ones. Will it be you and Brighton fighting out the title, do you think, at the end of the season?
Well, if they can keep with us, maybe.
And we didn't do the Guards of Honour, which might have been a bit wrong of us not to do, but I think you could see in Atkins' eyes he wanted that win more than any win of the whole season. I could tell it's going in, so I was just didn't really want to take it off him. Did hit me on the chest, so it was actually my goal, but I didn't want to ruin it for him, do you know what I mean? I let him have that one.
Dean, we'd love you to tell us what you remember from this one, and I'd also be interested to hear a little bit more about that Southampton-Brighton rivalry in League One.
Yeah, it was an interesting game. Good memories, obviously, because we won the game, and an excellent win and a really important win for us coming towards the end of the season. But like Ricky said there, I remember it now. We didn't do a Guard of Honour for Brighton, which obviously we knew how important the game was. Which, it was interesting because there was a tension between the two managers. I think they had a lot of respect for each other, but there was a real dislike between each other. Which I don't know where that's come from. I remember being captain, obviously, before the game, you have to go into the referee's room, and there was tension in there between the two sets of staff and the two players, which again was interesting at the Withdean Stadium because it's all very tight. The manager at half-time, Nigel, probably one of the only times during his period when I was there, really lost his composure. We were 1-0 down, and he how do I put it, dug a few players out, which is not Nigel's way really, but that was the importance of the game and the importance of the rivalry between the two clubs. So it was a great win in the end, and it was obviously good to score late on, and the atmosphere when Jose scored was amazing, and the fans coming on, and you feel the emotion. So it was a great win, but yeah, you could definitely feel there was a different atmosphere to it, and it was mainly, sounds strange, it was mainly between the two managers really. Because I worked under Gus a couple of years later when I went back on loan to Brighton. He still talked about it then. So, yeah, interesting times. But a good season. They were champions. We got promoted, but it just built up a bit of rivalry, which has continued on.
Yeah, David Connolly got a goal in the 84th minute to make it 1-1. Adam, were you covering that game, and what do you remember about him?
Yeah, I was definitely covering that game. I remember it well. Yeah, David Connolly. Yeah, I mean, he was a decent player for Saints. Kind of one that sort of, I think, in that team slipped under the radar a little bit, I would say. He was a little bit in and out, I suppose. He did have a few injuries. And he was an interesting... I always found him quite an interesting character. He was not what I would say Dean would probably be able to tell you more, but he never came across to me as like your typical footballer, and the stories I used to hear about him were not perhaps what you would associate always with footballers. But he was quite an interesting guy, an interesting character. He's obviously see him around and about every so often now, as a commentator, radio commentator as well. He was quite, relatively eloquent, as that suggests. So, but in terms of on the pitch, yeah, I mean, like a decent player, probably, one that felt like he had a lot of quality. It was just a case of getting him out on the pitch and kind of therefore squeezing it out of him. But he did pop up with some really classy goals and some really important goals as well.
Dean, it's always nice to get one over on your rivals, I imagine. What were your emotions when that winner went in, though?
I tried to hold them in because obviously it was against a previous club, and the last time I went back there, I kind of caused a little bit of a scene when I celebrated a goal a little bit too much. So, which I still have memories of and still get reminded of. But yeah, it was a fantastic way to get a winner, and obviously a great header by Jose. I don't know if it actually was Jose's goal or Ricky's, but we didn't care at the time. But like I previously mentioned, the celebrations, going to the fans and all the players running over and celebrating together. We knew the meaning of the goal. We knew the meaning of winning the game because We were still going for promotion, and we were being chased by, I think, Huddersfield and Peterborough at the time. So it was very, very close. We knew we had to win. And we actually played pretty well that day, on a hot day, I think. And we played some good football, but David Connolly came on and scored, and then Jose popped up the winner. So, yeah, it was really, really good scenes at the end of the game. And we made a lot of noise in the away dressing room afterwards, which I think annoyed Brighton, because the dressing rooms at Withdean were actually backed onto each other. So you could hear everything was being said. So, yeah, there's a little bit of banging on the wall, should I say, and a little bit of singing.
When you were out of sight, you could properly celebrate.
Yeah. Adam, now Nigel Atkins, we heard in the VT there, made those comments about Brighton keeping up. Did they blow up a little bit more than maybe he would have intended them to?
Well, yeah, did they blow up more than he intended? I think he knew what he was doing when he said that. I mean, Nigel kind of never said anything kind of that was particularly edgy or out there. He was very careful with the way he spoke and the way he presented himself publicly. So I think he knew what he was doing. But I mean, the evening itself, or the game itself, it's one of those that really does like live long in the memory, because it was hilarious, really, from start to finish. The whole evening, I remember turning up, and you get the program, and the program had, can you keep up with us on the front of it? The music on the PA system was catch us if you can. Poyet had a few digs and program notes about Saints being behind them in the league. I was actually looking, so I remembered, I thought there was a banner there that I could remember was really funny, and I couldn't remember, so I've actually looked it up because I thought we'd talk about this. And it said the Atkins diet: humble pie, egg on face, chip on shoulder, sour grapes, can't keep up, won't shut up. And I remember, and they obviously didn't give the Guard of Honour, which, to be honest, I didn't think that was that big a deal. But when they read the teams out on the PA system, before the Brighton, every player, it was champion, and then they read out the name. And of course, where the dugouts were, the fans could get right by the dugouts. I mean, it's incredible now. And they surrounded the Southampton dugout for virtually the entire game. And they're like 2 or 3 foot away from Atkins, and you're just giving him dog's abuse, like literally from the first second to the last. And they also dished out a fair bit to Dean as well, I seem to remember. He got a bit. At least he was on the pitch. He didn't have to just stand there and take. And then, of course, the winner. And I can remember, obviously I'm in the ground for an hour or so. I remember the stands emptying really quickly, and all you could hear was the Saints team in the dressing room, filling the sound of the Withdean Stadium for about 45 minutes after the game. And I remember the post-match interviews. There were some pretty happy players there, that's for sure.
To be fair, you've got to salute whoever came up with the Atkins diet. That is a pretty good one. I love that. Now, Ricky said Nigel wanted to win that game more than any other. Dean, did you sense that from him as well?
Yes, it was a little bit. It was very different to Nigel. I mean, the team meetings, the week building up to the game, he was a little bit different. He was a little bit on edge, where Nigel was very, very relaxed. Win, lose, he was very straight-laced, very calm. But there was a bit more of an edge in training, probably from the players as well, because they were obviously champions. We felt as though we were better than them, but they were in a higher position. And the manager did put the importance on the game. And we knew we had to win it. And like I say, there was some tension in the referees changing room before the game, which was very unusual from Nigel. There was tension at half-time where he lost his composure and raised his voice, probably for one of the only times I remember during my career working with him. So yeah, there was extra spice to it, but it was good. He played that right, and he got that right because it got us motivated. It got us up to the occasion. It got us up for the game, and it worked because we won. And we knew we could never be champions because they were crowned champions, but we were going to make sure that they weren't going to stop us getting promoted. So yeah, it was an interesting week, but like Adam said, the celebrations in the dressing room were fun and games afterwards. So yeah, it was an enjoyable weekend.
I can only imagine. Well, we're going to turn the clock back now to 2011 once again for another memorable match between Southampton and Brighton when we beat them 3-0 at St Mary's.
They take the lead, it would be a nightmare afternoon, wouldn't it? As Chaplow tries to come in field and pings a nice ball to Cork. Now Cork might hit this, he then checks. Got Navarro in front of him, so he goes out to the right wing to Richardson. Goody makes his way into the penalty area. Lallana's in as well. Lambert's at the back post and a header from Lambert, and he's scored and broken the deadlock just after half time. Well, Saints have had to be patient, but when you need a goal, who'd you call upon? Ricky Lambert, 12th of the season. Southampton 1, Brighton 0. Lallana's got two defenders with him, looks to try and get Fonte back in. Fonte still trying to go forward, he's fouled right on the edge of the penalty. Oh, the referee's got a penalty! Well, I thought it was outside the box, the first contact. Peter Walton, the flag for the linesman looked to me like he was flagging for a free kick. I didn't see him put the flag across his chest. Peter Walton's pointed to the spot, but now he's going to talk to his linesman, Dave. 10 minutes into the second half, and a red card for Mauricio Taricco. Now Lambert waits the referee's permission as Coldron waits to go on. It's Lambert against Harper. Lambert scores, and Southampton are 2-0 up against Brighton, and suddenly, out of nowhere, that winning sequence at home is looking safe again. In games of football, if you don't play to win, you can get caught a cropper, and Brighton have been, and now Lambert's got in down the left, he's down a penalty. It is! Lambert tripped. Looking for a second hat-trick at home this season in the league. Lambert, Harper's not ready. Will it stand? Referee says take it again. Is it going to be a second half hat-trick for Ricky Lambert? Saints to go 3-0 up. Right-footed, scores! Lambert has 3, Saints have 3, and surely 10 men Brighton are now dead and buried at St Mary's, and Southampton are going to stay top of the championship again, and Brighton will wind their way home feeling very, very sorry for themselves.
Well, loads of talking points from that game. So before we get stuck into individual points there, gentlemen, what are both of your memories from that fixture? Let's go to you, Adam, first.
Oh, just one of those games that's just chaos, basically. There's all sorts going on. I mean, obviously, in the end, it's a very one-sided result, really. Brighton, playing with 10 men for a long period of time, but just like one of those crazy days when there's just all sorts going on. There's all sorts of decisions. It was a bit, I think Dean will probably remember better than I can, but I seem to remember it being a bit niggly throughout as well. There was plenty of, again, a bit of that tension, I suppose, on the pitch because it was a big game. And both teams knew it was a big game, even at that stage of the season. There was a lot of niggle in it, a lot of like needle and, fouls and just some little naughty things going on off the ball behind the referee and the linesman's backs, I think, and and then obviously the refereeing decisions, which I'm sure we'll come to, were just all over the place. I mean, it's one of those games where almost you feel the referee's got overrun as well, and like he's just calling shots and decisions from all over the place that he's not even sure whether he's got them right or not. I think when he's given them, just one of those games. It's just crazy, and you come away at the end of 90 minutes and it's, even though the result has been fairly one-sided, it kind of takes your breath away because there's so much that's happened. It's quite a lot to digest.
Sorry, same as Adam. It was a niggly game. It was. I remember the first half being, Brighton came very defensive. I think by that time they'd realised that we were a real force in the championship, and we were very, very strong at home. So they came very defensive-minded, tried to frustrate us. So we had to be patient. But obviously Ricky scored a hat-trick, which was great. There was the penalty decisions. The referee lost a bit of control. Obviously, I really, really enjoyed beating Brighton 3-0, so that's always good. And I just remember being a little bit frustrated myself because we were 2-0 up, I think. They'd just gone down to 10 men and the manager brought me off. I thought, it was just going to start to have a bit of fun. We were going to keep the ball, score some more goals, and the manager made a change. So, but it was a good day and just one of them good memories from that season of playing at home because our home form was excellent.
Yeah, I imagine that was a fun game to play in. But let's talk about some of the specifics from that match then. That first goal from Ricky was a header at the back post, which is something Saints fans became pretty accustomed to seeing. Dean, was that something that he really worked on behind the scenes in training?
Yes, definitely. We used to work on that. It was one of Ricky's strengths. Ricky's strength was he had really good movement in the box. Obviously very powerful in the air, very, very strong. His timing of jumps were good as well. And we used to it wasn't always for Ricky to score. It was for other players to make runs off him within the box. So the fullbacks would look for that back post delivery. But we would work on that in training. We would work it unopposed in training, so around mannequins, so we could get the delivery right, we could get the timing of the movement right, the players could get the second part of the movement right. So we did work on that consistently during the season because it was such a strength of ours. And having a player like Ricky and having players like Danny Butterfield and Fraser Richardson and Danny Fox and Dan Harding, when they can deliver such quality from the fullback position, it was such a strength of ours. And it was quite funny because Brighton showed us a little bit disrespect because there was such a contrast in play that they associated us being a direct team when we weren't. We played good possession football as well, but it was such a strength of ours and people couldn't handle it that we had to use it as a weapon. So, no, we did work on it hard in training.
Now, we spoke about VAR last week. Now, I'm sure if it was introduced back then, it would have had something to say about that first penalty, Adam?
Blimey, just a bit. I mean, Peter Walton, I think, was the referee that day. And, like I said, just completely lost the plot, I think. Goodness knows how he gave a penalty. I mean, it was extraordinary. I mean, a foul, okay. But, I mean, it's not even borderline. It's not on the edge of the line. It's clearly outside the box. And then that's when the red card comes for dissent. I mean, you shouldn't lose your temper like that. But you can kind of understand why you would be pretty miffed if you were on the pitch and you saw a penalty given for that. And, of course, then I think a little bit later in the game, Lambert just gets absolutely, just totally, obviously shoved. And the referee's in a great position. And he's seen it. There's no way you couldn't give a penalty. I mean, you have to give a penalty. It's so obvious. And he waves that one away. And it was obviously felt like it was one of those. Probably from the reaction of the Brighton players, I'm pretty sure that Peter Walton realised he'd made a pretty massive mistake. And so he's just gone and evened it up a little bit later on by not giving another one. But that was kind of just the mark of that game with these crazy decisions and all these penalties given, penalties not given, just absolutely mad.
Yeah, certainly some questionable decisions in that game for sure. And as you said, Adam, a red card for dissent is something we very rarely see. Was he right on that occasion to kind of stamp his authority, or was that just completely harsh?
Well, without knowing exactly what was said, it's pretty hard to know. But I mean, the dissent is such a weird thing, isn't it? Because it's so subjective potentially as to what one referee considers to be acceptable and to be, just part of the game, and what other referees will say that's sort of over the line and off you go. You don't really see much of it these days. I think nowadays, though, the referees communicate a bit better with the players. Peter Walton was one of those. When he was refereeing at that stage, he was quite old school still, and a little bit came across a little bit headmaster-like. Whereas nowadays, I think you see a lot of the referees are a lot better at kind of talking to the players, communicating with them, speaking with them, and I think that gains a lot of respect from the players, even if they don't agree with the decisions that they will kind of be communicated to rather than talked down to like a headmaster might. And I think maybe that was a little part of what was going on there.
Yeah, Dean, that result seemed to come in an era where Saints were just smashing teams at home. How much confidence was just flowing through the side then?
I mean, our home form that season was amazing. We used to love playing at home. Obviously, the atmosphere from the fans was fantastic. We won a lot of games. We scored a lot of goals. So, yeah, very confident going into every game. We believed that we could win, especially at home, just because of the way we played, the way we kept the ball, the way we attacked teams, the way we tried to outscore everyone. And we just had, there's no hiding away from it, we just had very, very good players for that level and the level above. So, we had a good team that year. It was an enjoyable year, and looking back on the memories and seeing the goals always makes you smile because it was such a special time. The atmosphere within the stadium, the noise the fans made. I like to think that we helped them make that noise because we played entertaining football and scored goals. But yeah, we really, really enjoyed playing at home.
Well, before we turn our focus to tonight's clash against Brighton, we've got just enough time to hear from you, the fans at home. Lots of you predicting some big convincing wins tonight and lots of clean sheet predictions as well. Greg Hill's got in touch. Hello to you. He says, I reckon it will be 3-0 to the Saints. Danny Ings with a hat-trick. Isaac's got in touch on YouTube. He says, come on Saints, 3-0, James Ward-Prowse, Ings and Obafemi to score. Keith Durnford, good evening. He's on YouTube. He says, watching from Santa Rosa, California. How amazing. 2-1 to the Saints. You really are just trying to make us jealous now. Ross Deere has said, excited to take this form into next season. 3 points tonight. Yeah, it really is an exciting prospect, isn't it? Akshay on YouTube has said, watching from India, 3-0 to the Saints tonight. Hello to you. Abdullah on Facebook has said, Southampton to win 3-1, Ings, Ward-Prowse free kick and Obafemi to score. And a final comment here for now then is from Robert Sharp on YouTube. He says, nice to see a few of the youngsters playing tonight. Come on you Saints. Yeah, Jake Vokins and Will Smallbone starting of course tonight if you missed us breaking the team news earlier on in the show.
Yeah, as you said, Kenzie, we should probably quickly talk about the current Brighton squad, our opponents tonight. Now, earlier in the season, Southampton beat them 2-0. The game was influenced by a red card, though, on 30 minutes. Adam, what do you remember of that one?
Well, I mean, it was quite a big game for Saints, really, because they started the season with a couple of defeats. I think people were getting a little bit jittery about how their season was going to pan out, having gone into it with perhaps confidence that Ralph was going to really kind of do something great from the off, and they didn't play well, to be honest, throughout. Even though Brighton played an hour with 10 men, Brighton started better, and you felt that probably that it's hard to know because there's a long time to go. But in that first half, you kind of felt like actually they were sort of the stronger team, and they were probably going to go on and win that game. But a horrible tackle, really horrible, thoroughly deserved red card, sort of changed it. And those Saints didn't play well and they weren't overly convincing. They knew they had to get a win and they did. And obviously a couple of good goals, especially Musa's goal, was something very special. And that was just an important result for them because I think there was a bit of a sinking feeling at that point. And one of those games you came away from and you thought if they hadn't had that moment of madness and got that red card, I wonder where Saints season was going to go at that point in time. But you only play the game that you're presented with and you take your chances, and Saints did, and they got 3 points that day, and it kind of started to set them up for something a bit more optimistic than probably how they felt before the game.
I was in the stands with my brother for that one, and I've got to say it really was absolute scenes in the away end. Really enjoyed that one. Let's talk a bit more in depth about Brighton then. How do you kind of assess their season? I think we can actually take a look at the league table, how it stood at the start of play today. Dean, are they safe?
Well, I think they're 5 points clear of the relegation zone. I know a couple of players very, very well, and I've been speaking to them, and I think once they've beaten Norwich, I think they assumed they were safe. But the weekend results with the teams in the bottom three winning, has put them under risk again. The one thing that they're not doing is they're not scoring goals. They're struggling to really create clear opportunities, something that Southampton are doing really well at the moment. But one thing they are, especially away from home, is they're stubborn and they're resilient. The defensive shape is pretty good. They're very good in possession. So, that's the defensive shape for them. They can keep the ball. So while they've got the ball, the opposition can't attack. They've got a good goalkeeper. So I don't think they're quite safe yet, but I think they'll survive this season just due to the fact that other teams won't get the results to catch them. I don't think they'll win maybe the Newcastle game at the weekend is important for them. But I think the results from the other teams will keep them safe and keep them in the Premier League this season.
Yeah, we can see some live images there of St Mary's. Not long till kick-off there. Now, just before we depart, gentlemen, can we get some score predictions, please? Adam, let's have yours first.
I'm pretty optimistic for a Saints win. I never go for a nil when Glenn Murray's in the other team because he has done Saints so many times with goals and been a right royal pain to them down the years. But I still think Saints will win, so I'm going to go for 3-1.
And I will go for a Saints 2-0 win, another clean sheet, just because I can't see Brighton scoring. But Saints full of energy, pressing the game and winning by 2 goals.
So both predicting convincing wins, as are you, the fans at home. Dean, Adam, thanks as always. Don't forget they'll be back with us for our post-match show. Make sure you are too. It is an 8:15 kickoff, so things are getting underway at St Mary's very, very soon. So we'll leave you to enjoy the game and we'll see you after the full-time whistle.